Do good, Maverick here. Welcome to podcast episode number 128. Why you don't need millions of followers to succeed. I thought I'd just jump on and talk a bit about that because a lot of people think they need to have a massive audience or social media following in order to succeed when it comes to making money online. But the thing is, although it is definitely a massive advantage to have a big following, a big audience, a solid personal brand. You don't need it to succeed. So don't let that hold you back. The last few weeks, I've been focusing on interviewing people for community cash cows. The book and course and community that I'm working on for my online education and community platform that I call Terrific 30. Yeah, this course is basically about real life success stories of 30 people that make at least $10,000 in profit per month running a paid community. And the thing is, so far at the time of this recording, I've not interviewed all 30 yet, but I've interviewed a bunch of them. And so far, there has been several of them that did it without having a big audience. One of the guys that I interviewed a few weeks ago, he launched it. He got the idea for a paid community. Immediately, he called his friend up that had a lot of expertise on AI because he wanted to build a paid community about AI, despite the fact that he almost didn't know anything about it. So he called his friend up and basically explained his idea. He wanted to build a paid community teaching people about AI without knowing it himself. So he asked his friend that did know a bunch about AI if he wanted to partner with him, and he was in. And the very next day, they launched it. He didn't postpone it. He didn't plan it for weeks. He didn't spend several days writing a business plan. He called his friend up on the phone almost immediately after getting the idea. The very next day, they launched it. And this guy, he did not have a big audience in this niche. Basically, what he did, I think they used mostly social media like Facebook and stuff the first few days, just shared it a bunch. And they started with a very low monthly price to join in the beginning, and then they gradually increased the price as they were growing until they got to the monthly price that they wanted. But yeah, how did they grow it? They got the first few members that way, and then he knew of an email list owner, a guy that had a bunch of people on his email list, but he wasn't promoting that many things to his list. So he talked to that guy, and they basically made a deal where that email list owner agreed to promote their paid community to his email list as an affiliate. And I think it was 23% recurring affiliate commissions was the deal that they settled on. I think it was 23%. And they basically made a workshop. And I think they promoted the workshop 2 times per week, a workshop about AI. And in that workshop, they were selling memberships to their paid community. And with that one affiliate, that one email list owner, they were off to the races. They grew it from almost zero over those first few members. The main way they were growing it was through that one email list owner as an affiliate. She was promoting workshops for them about 2 times per week for I think it was a few months. And when I interviewed this guy, he was making about 18,000 euros in profit per month. He and his friend were making that each. And that email list owner, he was making about $10,000 in profit. I mean, about 10,000 euros in profit per month. So for as long as those people stayed a member in their paid community, that affiliate, that email list owner, he was making 23% recurring commissions. And, you know, that's just one example of two friends from Germany that launched a paid community, got a few members with things like Facebook and stuff like that. And then one email list owner promoting it as an affiliate a couple of times a week for a few months. And they were, now these days, they're making about 18,000 euros in profit each per month with one affiliate. And of course, you can have multiple affiliates to promote for you. And this is just one example, you know. You can use affiliates. Another lady I interviewed for communitycashcows.com. She started about 2 years ago to launch her own paid community. And the way she was doing it, she started pretty much from zero. And she used TikTok and YouTube. She went live almost every day for about an hour. In addition to that, she made a few short form videos as well. Sometimes she posted on Instagram and Facebook, but TikTok and YouTube was the main channels that she was focusing on. And the way she explained it to me, she started pretty much from zero. And after 30 days, she was already at about $7,000 in profit, in revenue in her case. About $7,000 in revenue per month after 30 days. And after 60 days, she said she was at around $14,000 in revenue. And $14,000 in revenue with a paid community, I think that's just above $10,000 in profit, I would think, you know. And she started from zero. She did not, or pretty much from zero. She did not have a big audience when she started, you know. So there's just two examples. You can use affiliates. You can use social media on multiple channels, create and post content. You can use cold email, which is really exciting, especially if you build a paid community that has some kind of barrier to entry, where you are looking for very specific people. And also, if it is a kind of high ticket community, maybe for businesses, certain industries, categories, things like that, you know, cold email you can use. But of course, be careful so that you're actually following the CAN-SPAM Act, so that you're doing things legally, you know. You can be interviewed on podcasts. You can reach out to a bunch of podcasts. You can get those podcasters to interview you. And you can talk about the niche that you have a paid community in. Of course, it depends on what paid community you are launching. But if it makes sense, maybe you can use a bunch of podcast interviews to promote it. You know, there's a lot of people that have used podcasts, appearing on podcasts as a way to promote their offer, you know. So why can't it be used? Why can it not be used for promoting a paid community as well, you know? So of course, in many cases, it can. But when it comes to podcasts, one of the reasons I'm so excited about going on podcast interviews is that it's utilizing one of my favorite forms of leverage. When it comes to the business world, a lot of people are talking about OPA and OPM. I mean, I'm sorry, a lot of people are talking about OPM and OPT, other people's money, getting investors and loans in the bank and stuff as a form of leverage, and OPT, other people's time, hiring people as a form of leverage. But the one thing that a lot of people are not talking about when it comes to leverage is what I call OPA, other people's audience, authority, and attention. Other people's audience. Maybe there are podcasts that have been in business for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. They have a massive audience, a massive loyal audience that know, like, and trust them. You can be interviewed on it, and you can provide a bunch of value, and then give a short pitch about your paid community, and maybe you will make a bunch of sales. But keep in mind, it varies a lot from podcast to podcast. I've heard a bunch of people talking about how they went on a big podcast and they didn't get that much results. It was really disappointing. But then they went to a bit smaller podcasts and they got tremendous results. So it can be kind of hard to choose the right ones, but there is definitely some opportunities out there. And a lot of them are free. There are some people out there that are charging money for people to appear on their podcasts, but to me that's a bit whacked out. It can be absolutely worth it in some cases, but it's also a bit whacked out because you're helping them create content. It's a win-win. And it can be risky to pay thousands of dollars for a podcast interview where you are helping them create content that they need. And if you're not generating any sales at all, you can lose a lot of money. So yeah. But yeah, that's podcast interviews. But another thing about podcasts, when it comes to using podcasts to sell, you can also start your own podcast, kind of like I'm doing here. But also, another way, you can make something that I learned recently. By the way, I should make a podcast episode explaining that more in depth. But basically, it was a concept where you interview your prospects, the people you want to sell to. You interview them for a short podcast episode, and you inform them up front that you will be chatting with them a little bit before and after the podcast episode. You interview them for a short podcast episode, and you're interviewing your ideal clients, your ideal. So for example, if this is for a paid community, you choose to interview the people you want to have in your paid community. And after the interview, then you can give a short pitch about your community. You can mention it up front. This podcast episode is sponsored by, and you can mention your own paid community. Sponsored by yourself, basically. So they know about it. After the interview, you can give them a pitch. That way you can, but it has to be done the right way for it to not seem rude, But that can also be a way to reach out to a bunch of potential members for your paid community, That was a poor explanation of that concept. The conversion podcast, the guy called it. I'll try to make I'll try to make a podcast episode about that. He wrote, I'm sorry, I won't mention his name yet because I might be remembering the wrong name. But yeah, I'll make an episode about it. He wrote a Facebook post about it, and I actually was on a call with him a few days ago where he explained more about the concept. So yeah, that's another way to promote your paid community without having a big audience. You can do outreach, direct outreach in the DMs and stuff. That might be a bit discouraging these days because there's been so many changes done to Facebook and Instagram where messages are going directly to the message request folder. So people, they never see your message oftentimes because you have to be friends with them first. So it's not what it used to be 5 years ago, you know. But it still works for some people. And like I said, for direct outreach, you can also use cold email. Paid ads. Some people are using paid ads as well to grow their paid communities. Roughly speaking, I think it's you know, creating and posting content. And under that, I also include being featured on other people's or promoted to other people's audience. So if you think about it this way, when it comes to ways to sell memberships to your paid community, roughly speaking, I think it's like these: creating and posting content, doing direct outreach, and paid ads, being featured on other people's channels, you know, OPA, other people's audience, authority and attention, being interviewed on podcasts, writing guest blog posts, shout outs, things like that, recruiting affiliates and getting affiliates to promote for you. So just those 5 ways, there's a lot of opportunities there as well, you know. So yeah, you don't need millions of followers to succeed. And I'm repeating it just to make things clear. I am not an expert. I've interviewed a bunch of success stories, so I have a few insights on things that are working, but yeah, I'm not an expert. But what one man can do, another man can do. Success leaves clues, you know. But if you want to learn from a bunch of those real life success stories that I've interviewed of paid community owners that are making at least $10,000 in profit per month, you should check out communitycashcows.com. All right, that's communitycashcows.com. You can also find it on terrific30.com. But yeah, take care and God bless.